It's Mr. Asuquo here, and in this video we're going to explore some of the key motifs in Macbeth. Now, exploring motifs is a really effective way to hit the highest level and get the top marks in your exams, because it shows the examiner that you are able to look at the text as a whole and identify patterns and trends and make connections across the whole text, which is something that you have to do in your exams, and motifs are a really easy way to do that. So a quick reminder, what is a motif? A motif is an image or an idea that is repeated throughout a text. So it could be a symbol, a word, an action, or an object. It could even be a sound. They symbolize something important within a story, so for example a theme. So first up we have the motif of sleep. Sleep is a symbol of innocence and peace. When you are innocent and you have a clear conscience, you can sleep peacefully. For example, King Duncan is killed whilst he's sleeping due to his innocence. However, once Macbeth commits regicide, he cannot sleep. Lady Macbeth also sleepwalks and washes blood from her hands, and she cannot sleep. So this is due to their guilt, and their sins has taken away their peace of mind and disrupted their sleep. Here are some key quotations that link to the theme of sleep. So Macbeth says he can sleep no more, that he's murdered sleep. He even says the innocent sleep, which highlights his guilt and emphasises King Duncan's innocence. And Lady Macbeth, while she's sleepwalking, says out damn spot, and she also says that all the perfumes of Arabia will not sweeten her hand. Next up we have the motif of blades. Now, in the beginning of the play, when Macbeth fights against the Norwegians for Scotland on the battlefield, he's described as using a sword. This sword is a symbol of his bravery, his honour, his loyalty, how patriotic he is, how much of a hero he is, and also his masculinity. However, when he commits regicide, he shifts from using a sword to using a dagger, and this shift really emphasises his deceptiveness, his betrayal, how disloyal he is, and how much of a coward he is. Think about the size difference from a sword to a dagger and how much easier it is for a dagger to be hidden and concealed. So a technique booster here is that the use of blades is also the use of phallic imagery. So this phallic imagery here of describing the blades from a sword to a dagger may also reflect Macbeth's depleting masculinity as a consequence of committing regicide. The more disloyal he becomes, the more his masculinity decreases. That's a nice thing that you can add in your exams. So here are some quotations that you can use for blades. The first is describing how he fought in the beginning on the battlefield with the sword described as brandished still, and then when he commits regicide, just before he does, he hallucinates and says, "Is this a dagger I see before me?" And finally, we have the motif of blood. So the blood that Macbeth and Lady Macbeth hallucinate and see throughout the play symbolises their guilt. So here are some quotations that use the motif of blood. Macbeth sees blood on the dagger. He describes the act of regicide as bloody business, which emphasises his guilt because he cannot bring himself to say the word murder. So he euphemises the act of regicide by calling it bloody business. Also, Macbeth says, "Will all great Neptune's ocean wash this blood clean from my hand?" And Lady Macbeth says, "Out damn spot," with the spot referring to blood. So why don't you have a go at analysing the use of motifs in Macbeth yourself by completing the sentence below for each of these motifs. Shakespeare uses the motif of X in order to Y. For example, Shakespeare uses the motif of blood in order to emphasise how guilt stains the conscience, demonstrating that once Macbeth and Lady Macbeth commit murder, they can never wash away their sense of moral corruption. If you would like more videos like this, make sure you are following at Mr. Asuquo on Instagram, TikTok and YouTube.